charged for breaching UN Genocide Convention in Gaza. Heavy airstrikes bound Yemen's airports and military facilities. Good afternoon and Salam Malaysia Madani. I'm Shuhaida Arifin and this is World Today. South Africa yesterday accused Israel of breaching the United Nations Genocide Convention, arguing that even the 7th October Hamas attack could not justify such alleged actions as it launched a landmark case at the top UN court. Pretoria has lodged an urgent appeal at the International Court of Justice (ICJ) to force Israel to immediately suspend its military operations in Gaza. Israel is trying to dismiss the case as atrocious and preposterous and vowed to set out a robust defense later today. Pretoria's Justice Minister Ronald Lamola said, "No armed attack on a state territory, no matter how serious, can provide justification for or defend breaches of the convention." The Gaza war erupted on 7th October, causing the death of at least 23,469 Palestinians, mostly women and children. A world away from the death and destruction in Gaza and Israel, robbed lawyers battled it out over technical legal arguments in the Peace Palace in The Hague. South Africa argues Israel is breaking its commitments order under the UN Genocide Convention, a treaty signed in 1948 in the wake of the Holocaust. Top lawyer for South Africa, Adila Hassim, said, "Genocides are never declared in advance, but the ICJ has the benefit of the past 13 weeks of evidence that shows incontrovertibly a pattern of conduct and related intention that justifies a plausible claim of genocidal acts." Meanwhile, mourners gathered in Deir al-Balah for the funerals of medics who the Palestinian Red Crescent said were killed in an Israeli strike on an ambulance in the central Gaza Strip. The Israeli military denied it was behind the bombing of the ambulance. The Palestinian Red Crescent Society had said 6 people were killed on Wednesday in an Israeli strike on their ambulance at the entrance to the Deir al-Balah area of central Gaza. The roof of the ambulance was completely destroyed and part of the vehicle crushed. Jahan Shapagain, the head of the International Federation for Red Cross and Red Crescent Societies, called the attack unacceptable in a social media post and said he strongly condemned their killing. The Red Crescent said the ambulance had been on Salah ad-Din Road, the highway running north-south through the Gaza Strip that has in the past been used by thousands of Palestinians fleeing the Israeli military advance. Earlier on Wednesday afternoon, the health ministry in Hamas-run Gaza said multiple people were killed in an Israeli strike near a hospital in Deir al-Balah. Now, the Houthi official media and AFP correspondents said heavy airstrikes bounded airports and military facilities in Yemen early today. Sites around the capital Sana'a, Hodeidah and Sa'da were all targeted as the Houthis said this to be the result of American aggression with British participation. AFP correspondents reported hearing big strikes in Hodeidah and Sana'a. Local TV station Al Masirah reported that missiles targeted an airbase near Sana'a airports and airport in Ta'is, Hodeidah and Abs, and a military camp near Sa'da. Houthis Deputy Foreign Minister Hussein Al-Azzi said Yemen country was subjected to a massive aggressive attack by American and British ships, submarines and warplanes. He was quoted as saying that America and Britain will have to prepare to pay a heavy price and bear all the dire consequences of this blatant aggression. Meanwhile, US President Joe Biden last night said that US and British forces had launched airstrikes against Iran-backed Houthi rebels in Yemen in defense action after attacks on shipping in the Red Sea.
In a statement, Biden said the strikes on the Houthis were carried out with support from Australia, Bahrain, Canada and the Netherlands, adding that they will not hesitate to order further military action if needed. He said the strikes were successfully launched against a number of targets in Yemen, used by Houthi rebels to endanger freedom of navigation in one of the world's most vital waterways. US media said the strikes involve fighter jets and Tomahawk missiles. The strikes followed a spate of 27 Houthi attacks on ships in the busy international sea route, including the use of anti-ship ballistic missiles for the first time in history. Now, French President Emmanuel Macron yesterday replaced his foreign minister but maintained other key figures in their posts in a reshuffle that titled his cabinet to the right and left all top ministries in the hands of men. The reshuffle followed the appointment this week of 34-year-old Gabriel Attal as Prime Minister, which Macron hopes will give his presidency new momentum. The Secretary-General of Macron's Renaissance Party, Stéphanie Séjourné, 38, was named to Foreign Minister in place of Catherine Colonna, although other key ministers, including Interior Minister Gérald Darmanin and Finance Minister Bruno Le Maire, kept their posts. With Defence Minister Sébastien Lecornu also staying, this left all the top ministries in the hands of men following the departure earlier this week of Elizabeth Borne as Prime Minister. Séjourné was in a civil partnership with Attal, France's first openly gay Prime Minister, but their relationship is now believed to be over. Rachida Dati, 58, a justice minister under the presidency of Nicolas Sarkozy and member of the right-wing opposition Republicans Party, was named culture minister in a surprise appointment. The appointments were announced at the Élysée Palace by Macron's chief of staff Alexis Kohler. Sports Minister Amélie Oudéa-Castéra, 45, a former French tennis champion who already faces an immense task overseeing the Olympic Games this summer in Paris, will now head a new super ministry combining sports and education, Attal's former department. Bangladeshi Prime Minister Sheikh Hasina has sworn in for a fifth term yesterday after a landslide victory in an election boycotted by the opposition. Hasina's ruling Awami League Party won nearly 3/4 of elected seats in parliament, with allied parties and friendly independent candidates making up nearly all the remainder. The vote was criticized by the United States and the United Nations following a crackdown late last year that saw thousands of opposition party members arrested. Around 15 ministers from the previous cabinet were dropped, but most senior ministers retained their position, names circulated by the Cabinet Office showed. Hasina has presided over breakneck economic growth in Bangladesh, once beset by grinding poverty, but her government has been accused of rampant human rights abuses and a ruthless crackdown on dissent. Dozens of opposition parties boycotted Sunday's election, which they described as a sham designed to entrench Hasina in power. Turned out in the poll was a march 41.8%, just over half the figure in the previous vote in 2018. Regional powers China and India nonetheless congratulated Hasina after her victory, vowing to continue cooperation with the South Asian nation of 170 million people. Former U.S. President Donald Trump ignored warnings from the judge in his New York civil fraud trial Thursday and turned closing arguments into an election campaign attack, claiming that prosecutors are out to stop his political comeback.
Prosecutors are demanding $370 million from the Trump over fraud allegations and to bar him from conducting business in the state, where he made his name as a celebrity real estate tycoon. Trump had sought to deliver full closing arguments himself, but permission was denied when he failed to sign off on restrictions aimed at stopping him from using the courtroom as an electioneering platform. Judge Arthur Engoron then allowed Trump to make brief additional comments after his lawyer had spoken, again insisting that Republican presidential candidate and former president respect courtroom rules. The trial is one of multiple criminal and civil cases Trump faces as he seeks to return to the White House, ranging from a rape allegation to conspiring to overturn the 2020 election results. He is accused of fraudulently inflating the value of his properties in order to obtain favorable bank loans. If found liable, the amount to be paid by Trump and his companies will be revealed in the judge's final order, which no date has been confirmed.
Coming up, Ecuador armed forces engage in brutal standoff with organized crime. Stay tuned. Ecuador's armed forces were engaged in a brutal standoff with organized crime Thursday, deploying more than 22,400 soldiers to put down a campaign of terror waged by gangs that has claimed 16 lives. With an armed presence on the streets, patrols by land, sea and air, random body and car searches, prison raids and the enforcement of a curfew, the government of President Daniel Noboa has vowed not to yield in its war with 22 criminal gangs.
Since Monday, drug cartel have been waging a bloody campaign of kidnappings and attacks in response to a government crackdown on organized crime, prompting Noboa to declare the country to be in a state of war. The small South American country has been plunged into crisis after years of growing control by transnational cartels that use its ports to ship cocaine to the United States and Europe. Criminal gangs in a country of about 17 million people are thought to have more than 20,000 members. The latest outbursts of violence was sparked by the discovery Sunday of the prison escape of one of the country's most powerful narco bosses, Jose Adolfo Macias, known by the alias Fito. On Monday, Noboa imposed a state of emergency and nighttime curfew, but the gangs hit back with a declaration of war, threatening to execute civilians and security forces. Police said the death toll rose to 16 late on Wednesday with a terrorist attack on the discotheque in the Amazon that claimed 2 lives and injured 9 people.
Argentina's annual inflation surged beyond 200% in 2023 as the country grapples with an economic crisis. New President Javier Milei has vowed to address by slashing state spending. Statistics Agency Index said monthly inflation in December stood at 25.5%, while the annual figure over 12 months was 211.4%.
Milei took office in December after winning a resounding election victory on a wave of fury over the country's decades of economic crisis marked by debt, rampant money printing, inflation and fiscal deficit. Shortly after the self-described anarcho-capitalist took office, his administration devalued Argentina's peso by more than 50% and announced huge cuts in generous state subsidies of fuel and transport. His government has also done away with a program to control the prices of some goods introduced by the previous government to try and ease the impact of inflation. The International Monetary Fund (IMF), to which Argentina owes $44 billion, welcomed these measures. Milei has warned the country is on the brink of hyperinflation and said economic shock treatment was the only solution. Poverty levels in Latin America's third biggest economy are at 40%.
Several thousand people took the streets in Bratislava to protest criminal code reforms planned by Slovakia's government, criticized by the European Union and the opposition alike. Several thousands of people took to the streets in Bratislava since Tuesday to protest criminal code reforms planned by Slovakia's government, criticized by the European Union and the opposition alike.
The government last week also approved the abolishment of a specialised prosecutor's office that oversees cases of high-level corruption and organised crime in the EU country of 5.4 million. Slovak Prime Minister Robert Fico said the body was biased and treating his populist smear SD party officials unfairly. According to organisers, around 15,000 supporters turned up at the protest in the capital alone, with similar rallies held in other Slovak cities. The parliament plans to pass the controversial reforms via a fast-track legislative procedure, a step that has drawn criticism from the president and the opposition lawmakers. European Union officials also denounced the reform plans. More than 35,000 people in Slovakia have signed an online petition to stop the government proposals. Organisers of the protest indicated that similar actions would follow in the days to come.
Qatar and Lebanon gear up for Asian Cup opener, then and more in our sports segment. Now we begin our sports segment this afternoon with the tennis. Great Britain's Jack Draper upset top seed Tommy Paul 6-1, 6-4 to advance to the semi-finals of the Adelaide Open. The two have now played twice, both times at this event, with the British player winning both matches in straight sets.
The unseeded Britain, ranked 48 places below world number 14 Paul, broke the Americans' serve 4 times to wrap up victory in just 81 minutes. Draper, ranked number 62, will play Kazakh Alexander Bublik, the number 8 seed, next in what will be his second consecutive ATP Tour final. Bublik edged Italian Lorenzo Musetti 6-3, 6-7, 7-5 in an entertaining encounter which included Bublik winning a rally with a cross-court forehand played between his legs. With the match finely balanced in the third set, Musetti saved a break point at 1-2 down with a cross-court volley. Bublik tried to run the ball down but failed, with his momentum carrying him into the crowd. After saving a match point, Bublik won through to the semi-finals in 2 hours and 37 minutes. Alexandrova, as she sought a second win in their fourth meeting. Up next for Alexandrova is former world number 5, Jelena Ostapenko, who continued to gain momentum for another tilt at a Grand Slam title with a 7-5, 6-3 win over Marta Kostyuk. The 12th-ranked Latvian, who made her major breakthrough by claiming the 2017 French Open title, is beginning to rediscover her best form, having also made the Brisbane quarterfinals and came through a tight first set against her Ukrainian opponent. She raised her level in the next after dropping serve and broke a to-go-ahead 3-1 before breezing through.
Novak Djokovic produced yet another memorable night in Rod Laver Arena on Thursday, but this time it was less to do with his tennis skills and more to do with his casual comedic instincts, as he got to Melbourne crowd laughing and cheering through games played during the charity event. Now, Qatar have to shoulder the pressure of defending their crown when they kick off the Asian Cup on home soil against Lebanon tomorrow. The 2022 World Cup host won the continental title for the first time in the United Arab Emirates in 2019, stunning 4-time champions Japan in the final.
However, they gave the worst on-field performance of any World Cup host ever just over a year ago, losing all 3 group games and becoming the first team eliminated. Captain Hassan Al-Haidous said that Qatar would have to deal with the heightened expectations at the Asian Cup, starting with their Group A opener at Lusail Stadium. Qatar must also deal with a last-minute change of coach, with Spaniard Tintin Marquez taking over when Carlos Queiroz was fired last month. Marquez spent 5 years coaching Al-Wakrah in Qatar's domestic league, having previously worked at the country's Aspire Academy. The former Espanyol coach said his familiarity with Qatar football makes things easier. Lebanon have qualified for their second straight Asian Cup and are also dealing with a last-minute change of coach. Modrak Radulovic of Montenegro, who also led the team in 2019, returned last month following the departure of Croatian Nikola Jurcevic. The opener will be played at Lusail Stadium, which can accommodate up to 80,000 spectators.
Jadon Sancho rejoined Borussia Dortmund on loan for the rest of the season on Thursday, less than 3 years since Manchester United paid €73 million for the England winger. Sancho had been frozen out at United for most of the season after becoming involved in a public spat with manager Erik ten Hag.
The 23-year-old posted on social media in September that he had been made a scapegoat at the club for poor performances after being left out of the matchday squad for a 3-1 defeat at Arsenal. Sancho has not played a minute for the Red Devils since then had been forced to train away from the first team. Even prior to the breakdown of his relationship with the former Ajax boss, Sancho never lived up to his price tag at Old Trafford. He scored just 12 times in the 82 appearances and struggled to hold down a regular first-team place under both Ole Gunnar Solskjaer and Ten Hag. A return to the club where he made his name as one of Europe's rising stars can rejuvenate his career. German media reports the deal will cost Dortmund roughly €4 million and that Sancho has agreed to take a significant cut to his reported €300,000 a week wages. In another transfer news, Tottenham Hotspur defender Eric Dier has joined Bayern Munich on loan to the end of the season. Financial details of the deal were not disclosed by either club, but British media reported that Bayern paid Spurs €3.5 million for the 29-year-old England international. Dier, who had 6 months left on his Spurs deal, made over 300 appearances for the North London club since 2014, but has featured just 4 times since Ange Postecoglou took over as manager in June last year. Dier was mostly used as a defensive midfielder under former Spurs boss Mauricio Pochettino and can also play at centre-back. His move to Bayern reunites him with his former Spurs and England teammate Harry Kane, who has been in prolific form since joining the Serie German champions. Bayern are currently second in the Bundesliga, 4 points behind leaders Bayer Leverkusen with a game in hand.
Rival Jr. was unveiled as the head coach of the Brazil men's national team. He has vowed to turn around the side's fortunes after a run of poor results in the South American qualifiers for the 2026 World Cup.
The former Sao Paulo coach signed a contract until December 2026 and takes over following the sacking of Fernando Diniz. The 5-time world champions have been going through a turbulent period since being knocked out from the 2022 World Cup in the quarterfinals. That loss on penalties to Croatia led to the departure of the coach Tite. The rival emerged as the leading candidate for the job after Italian coach Carlo Ancelotti extended his contract with Real Madrid following failed negotiations to manage the South American side. The rivals' first match in charge will be a friendly against England on 23rd March.
World Cup winners Lionel Messi and Aitana Bonmati are among the favourites for the Best FIFA Awards, which will be revealed on Monday in London. Messi is finalist for the Best Men's Player alongside Manchester City striker Erling Haaland and French forward Kylian Mbappe.
Bonmati is up against international teammate Jennifer Hermoso and Colombia's Lider Caicedo for the Women's Award. Treble-winning Pep Guardiola is the front-runner for the Best Men's Coach against Inter Milan's Simone Inzaghi and former Napoli now Italy coach Luciano Spalletti. Sarina wingman Emma Hayes and Barcelona's Jonathan Giraldez are shortlisted for the Women's Award. Morocco's Yassine Bonu, Manchester City Ederson and Real Madrid Thibaut Courtois are the nominees for the Best Men's Goalkeeper, while England number 1 Mary Earps and the strong favourite to take home the Best Women's Goalkeeper.
Now in motorsport, overnight leader Yazid Al-Raji rolled out of Dakar Rally contention in a new 48-hour chrono stage, with the accident ending the Saudi hopes of a first overall victory in home terrain. Audis Carlos Sainz, a triple Dakar winner, led the virtual rankings in the car category, while defending champion Nasser Al-Attiyah dropped back to third after the first leg of the marathon stage in the Kingdom's empty quarter. Drivers started the day facing a 549-kilometre challenge over 2 days, with an obligatory stop at 4 p.m. local time, but Al-Raji crashed after just 51 kilometres. The Dakar website reported that the overdrive Toyota hit a bump or clump of grass and barrel rolled, suffering heavy damage. The car was taken back to the start of the 6th stage, with no guarantee of being able to continue on Sunday, the 7th stage. Al-Raji had started the day 9 minutes and 3 seconds clear of Qatar's Al-Attiyah. Sainz looked well placed for a 43rd career stage victory after he got ahead of Al-Attiyah's pro driver Hunter early on in the soft sand and dunes. The Spaniard was the 17th starter after strategically slowing on Wednesday and ended the day 4.5 minutes clear of teammate Matthias Ekstrom. In the motorcycle category, Chilean Honda rider and Wednesday's stage winner Pablo Quintanilla lost an hour and 40 minutes after running dry before the first refueling point. American Ricky Brabeck was in the lead position, 2 minutes and 48 seconds clear of Botswana's Ross Branch.
Kejohanan Badminton Petronas Terbuka Malaysia 2024. Jago-jago handalan dunia kini berentak memburu tahta kejuaraan. Jumaat 12 Januari, perlawanan suku akhir 9 pagi dan 3 petang di saluran OK dan saluran sukan RTM. Saksikan juga secara penstrima langsung di RTM Klik. Kejohanan bola sepak Piala Asia Qatar 2023. Kesebelasan terbaik Harimau Melaya kini bersedia untuk memburu tahta berprestij di Asia. Selasa 16 Januari, Malaysia bertemu Jordan 1 pagi di saluran OK dan saluran sukan RTM. Saksikan juga secara penstrima langsung di RTM Klik bersama RTM, official media partner.
And with that, we reach the end of this afternoon's bulletin. In our top story today, Israel facing charges of breaching UN Genocide Convention in Gaza. To join us again tonight on Berita RTM and TV1 for more news. I'm Shuhaida Arifin. From river to the sea, Palestine will be free. Goodbye for now.
Once upon a time, yes. Dia akan berlaku pada wanita-wanita cantik seperti kita.
Wow.
Yes.
Yes.